This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz, and I'm so excited to be speaking with Judith Light about her roles in Julia, Shining Vale, and so much more. How are you, Judith?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. It's great to see you back in the Emmy race after your win last year for Poker Face, but it's
Thank
also
you.
been because both shows have been canceled.
Yes, that's right.
So it's nice to
Sadly,
be able, please.
yes, and it's really great to be able to talk about them because both of these shows are very, um, I think, not only um, entertaining and enjoyable and a joy to work on, but also valuable storytelling that a lot of people didn't know who the women were that were around Julia Child, her best friend, Avis, and Judith Jones, who was her editor at Knopf Publishing, and of course Blanche Knopf, who was the major uh, publisher and also an editor at the time when women were not in those roles, and also the dynamic between Judith Jones, who was Julia Child's editor for her cookbooks, but the relationship between Blanche Knopf, who wanted nothing to do with cookbooks, only wanted to talk about Albert Camus and Freud and all of those people, and what their relationship was like. Who were these women? And of course, I got to work with Fiona Glaskett, who is just this amazing actor, and my friend Chris Kaiser and Daniel Goldfarb. I mean, this is just this brilliantly written show, and also getting to work with Courtney Cox and this great team and Jeff Astroff, and talking about women on Shining Vale and mental illness. A lot of people will not talk about those things, and so it's sad that these shows are no longer on. But I value both experiences, and would really invite people to look at what we're doing in our business and things that we're choosing to cancel. You know.
That's very fair. We should definitely spend a few minutes on each one of those just to really celebrate them. What did you connect with most about Blanche?
The 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 truth of who she was and what she did that was obfuscated and made unimportant by her husband Alfred. Alfred took all the credit. He said when they got married, he said, "We will do this. We will create this Knopf Publishing, and we will do it together." And she did so much of the work and never got any of the credit for it. She stood in his shadow. And so people didn't know who she was, the power of who she was, and how she related to the world. And also the fact that how ironic that someone who made their living, made their mark, made the world a different place by the people that she chose to bring to light all their stories, Willa Cather, and that in the end she was going blind. It's just a most devastating and remarkable story of a person of great substance and great resilience. And, had a very difficult relationship with her husband. It was just so there are so many facets to this woman that people don't know anything about. So that I felt was really important, and I believe that Chris Kaiser and Daniel Goldfarb, who created the series, felt very much the same way. They wanted to show who Blanche was, that they had not, that nobody had really done before.
I know that when I talked to Chris and Daniel, I asked them for season one, I said, what is it like making a limited series? And they said, this isn't a limited series. We want to be renewed. And of course they were. Do you have a sense of what might have been next for Blanche, what more of the story would have been in season three?
Yes, I do. I have some sense. We hadn't really gotten to talk about it because we were canceled before we were really in conversation. Chris has been a longtime friend, and Daniel has become a friend. That they would be relating more around Blanche and her blindness and the people that she was bringing in, and how much she relied on Judith Jones, how their relationship developed, and how, as much as Blanche was would push people away. She wanted to make sure that she could do it on her own. She was very independent. I mean, there were stories about Blanche, how she wouldn't be able to see a street light, and she would just cross the street as though she could see. And that was the mark of her independence. She wasn't going to let anybody know that she was an invalid in any way. So I think we would have explored more of that. I think we would have explored more of the way she related around with her husband, and more how she related with her reliance on Judith Jones, who you can see as the series progressed this last year, how she let her in more and more, and the value that Judith was to her. So I think that would be some of where they would go. But you'd have to ask them.
Good. Well, Shining Vale is something very different. And I know that the last time you and I spoke was for the menu, which not the same thing, but at least veering towards a different kind of
Yeah.
territory. What is
Right.
it like to work within that sort of horror comedy space?
It's so funny. I don't hold it like that. I just hold it like, this is the story we're telling, and here's the character, and this is what the character does. And so if people think it's horror, great. And if they think it's comedy, great. And if they think it's drama, also great. So I don't use those contexts as like, oh my God, I'm doing this horror comedy show. It's like, I'm working on this character, I'm creating this character, and how does she relate within this? How does she relate to her daughter? Courtney Cox is so amazing in this. I mean, she's just stunning, and it was so delicious to get to work with her and to see what the writers were coming up with. That when you talk about women in mental illness, there's a great deal of complexity, but there's also humor. And the humor in this is really also one of the great top notes of this show. So I don't think about it, I just think about creating this character, and that's what we're doing. And I don't think, I don't do like a different kind of work on something, because it is that genre. I just think about the character
You
and
have
how much
things
the
that,
audience is going to love it.
of course, do you as an audience member, are there things that you like or don't like watching, just, genre wise?
It's interesting. I've been watching several different things recently. Speaking of frightening, have you seen Ripley?
Yes.
How brilliant is Andrew Scott? How Steven's Alien. I mean, it's just like, so I that's not necessarily the kind of thing that I tend to watch, but I really became enthralled with it, I have to say. And I've been watching. Have you seen We Were the Lucky Ones?
Mhm. Another great
Th-
one.
Isn't it just magnificent? I mean, my friend Tommy Kail did that one, and the did you see A Small Light?
Yes.
You see everything.
I
So,
try. I try.
those some of the story parts of the story of that come under emotional horror in a very, very different way. Small Light and We Were the Lucky Ones. But they're family stories. They are stories about people who care for other people who take care of other people who relate out of the circumstances of what they're in, to relate to them, to each other in very different ways. So I've been really compelled by those in particular. Um, and I like historical dramas. I'm just started watching Mary and George, that someone recommended to me, with Julianne Moore, and The White Princess, and The White Queen. I mean, there are these large grand. I mean, Stars is doing these incredible sort of epic shows about that are historical dramas that are quite stunning, I think. So that's the kind of stuff that I've been watching. And have you seen Somebody Somewhere, the
Oh, that's
Bridget
a
Everett
wonderful
show?
gem. Oh yeah, that's great.
The Jay Duplass, who played my son Josh on Transparent. And it's one of the producers and it directs a lot of those. And I just think it's just remarkable. It's just so delicious. I just adore it. So those are some of the things that I'm watching.
That's great. It's fun to hear about all those. I was looking back at all of, your role that you've had, and there's one show that I wanted to make sure I asked about because as far as I know, and Wikipedia confirms this, it was never actually canceled, but it's been so much time that I would be truly shocked if a third season of The Politician was still in development.
You know what? You would have to have Ryan Murphy on and ask him about that. It was never canceled. And I know that one of the things that I believe, if memory serves, is that they were waiting for Ben Platt to get a little older. Okay, hello, he's older. So I don't know. I don't know what's happening. And that would really be a question also for, the producing team and everybody who, thought that they wanted to bring that back. But didn't you think that was delicious? I keep using
Yes,
that
and I
word.
look from what I remember, you'd have a pretty expanded role in the theoretical third season if that came, which would be very exciting.
I would really have loved that. And of course, working with Ben and Bette Midler was really one of the highlights of my career and my life. It's not just, you can't separate these things out. The career is a lot of different things, but there are people that you meet and that you hold close. And those are two of them that I mean, I think it would be fabulous if they decided to do that. I remember when I was shooting Queen America, which was on Facebook Watch, which very few people saw because they couldn't find it. I was shooting Queen America with Catherine Zeta-Jones, and Ryan Murphy called me, and I had done a couple of other things for him. And he called and he said, I think I just done Johnny Versace for him. And he called and he said, I have this character that I'd like you to play in The Politician, and she's in a throuple. And I was like, oh, what are we talking about? And he basically said it's a sexual encounter with two men. And I was like, I'm in. Okay, that's good. Thanks. Okay, bye. And I mean, those are the kinds of things that are very exciting when somebody as creative as Ryan brings something like that to you. So it was a joy. It's a joy. I'm glad you're mentioning it. I think it would be great. We can start a whole campaign about redoing re-upping The Politician.
This is where it starts, yes.
That's right. Exactly. It does. In fact, yeah.
And of course, as we mentioned earlier, you won an Emmy last year for Poker Face.
I
That's its
did.
own sort of unique show. What is it like to come on just for one episode and sort of grasp the tone of a whole series?
Divine. Natasha Lyonne is absolutely beyond. I mean, she's so brilliant and so right for this. Everybody was Ryan Johnson. I mean, everybody, Lucky McGee, who was the director, was just like, and Epatha Murkison, who I got to see on Broadway do Come Back Little Sheba. It was directed by my friend Michael Pressman, who was the son of David Pressman, the brilliant Broadway and who directed me on the soap opera. I watched her and I said, someday I have to work with her. I have to work with her. And when we got to work together, it was a complete joy. We had the best time. And when you watch that episode, you can see how much fun we all had. It was just like, can you have more fun than this in a character that this friendship is what is really the closeness and the protection and the family feeling that was created between these two women. Remember, you also have a great script. So, Wyatt Kane, Charlie Peppers. I mean, I gave them a shout out when I won the Emmy. And just like you got to have a script. You got to have a great script, and you got to have great people who want to be on the team and want to do the best for the team. And that's what we had. That's what we were doing. I mean, this Emmy is every bit as much all of theirs, and certainly Epatha's as it is mine, and Tasha's too.
we've
But
talked about.
somebody said to me, they said, yeah, would you go back? And I said, but I can't go back. I can't go back unless she and I get out of jail and we go back and we do something bad again, which would be great fun.
I agree. I agree. Well, we've talked a lot about shows and roles that you're probably not returning to. What do you have coming up?
I just finished a limited series for Apple Plus with Billy Crystal. And I can't tell you much more than that. But it was, I always knew that I wanted to work with him. I also always knew that I would work with him. And you'll remember that when you see what the show is about. And this is the drama. And Billy is breathtaking in this. This is not your usual Billy Crystal, funny, wonderful, brilliant, charming. And he is all of those other things in this. Not so funny, but it's a special project, and it grabbed my soul and grabbed my heart when I saw it. It's when it was offered, I was, and as I have been with almost everything I've gotten to do, extremely grateful to be able to be a part of this. The writers and showrunners, Sarah Thorpe and Joe Salsa, they were just remarkable. Just, and everybody that we're talking about here, these are not just brilliantly talented people. These are also remarkable human beings, who they are and the way they choose to work and the way they put people together and the way that they are, you have that kind of connection where they're flexible and open to everything that you're talking about as well. So everybody's part of the team. And it's a very, very special way to work. And you don't always have that. But in these projects that we've been talking about today, this is very much the experience.
I love the attitude you have and just the sense of wonder about what you're doing, and it's really great to, cover all of this. And I look forward to seeing everything you do next.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks. Yeah, it's, if you don't have gratitude and if you don't have curiosity and you don't have wonder, why are you here? What are you doing with your life? Who are you going to be? We're not all going to be here forever. And that's a hard thing to look at, but it's also true. So that means, how do you want to live? It's a great book called Denial of Death. And it's really about how do you, if you don't deny that you're going to die, how will you choose to live? And so I appreciate that you noted that about the attitude. It matters to me. So thank you for noting it. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time, Judith. I look forward to talking again soon.
Me too.